it always warms my heart to go to schools and see people planning for next year, while at the same time trying to finish up this particular school year. So shout out to all of you who are doing the great work. I just want people to recognize, especially people who are new to the room, to understand is that what makes OSG special is that we don't hoard any information. We don't hoard our practices. We don't hoard our protocols and procedures. We do everything that we can so that we all are aware of ways in which we can improve our practices. And so we hear it from Travis all the time. And, Travis Brown from Farrell's Academy would always say, I steal from every school I go to. And everybody, it's funny because when people visit Travis, they're always in awe. But the one thing he's unapologetic about is about stealing every idea that's possibly out there. So, you know, I want us to be able to not necessarily have to steal it anymore from one another. We could just openly talk about it.
We founded an educational system that provided supports for the entire community. The fact that our teachers after enslavement traveled from town to town and people housed the teachers so that they can teach our communities. We know exactly what should be done. We can move so many children forward and families and communities forward, provided we're not afraid of our communities. We embrace our communities. We use every fiber of our community resources, whether it's the barbershop or the beauty salon, the corner store, the ShopRite, whatever it is, you got to bring them in. And you have to expose your teachers have to be exposed to their own financial literacy. Teachers are tired of teaching, saying, I have all of these student loan debts and I'm broke. Why did I come into this profession? So you have to bring in people just for them. Like, as a leader, you are responsible for an entire ecosystem that is not just children learning, it's communities thriving. Thank y'all.
And Allison, and I think that's the point. I want people to understand, like, if you are leading a school, you are also supposed to be leading the community. And if you choose to just leave it as, I'm going to teach within I'm going to lead within these four walls or on the school grounds, unfortunately, you're never going to see the change that you're talking about. So when you're saying, how do I improve my community and my school community? You must scan the community to find out what the problems are. There's districts that have historically failed year after year, decade after decade. And what's the problem? The problem is that there are people who get up every single day and go to work and just think about it as a job. I just think about it as being a principal. No, if you're not changing your community, I have to ask the question, are you actually changing your school?
I really want to implore people to remember that, you may not have everything that you hear people talking about, but it's not an excuse to do the things that, you can do within your space. I mean, it's Allison that has the amazing food pantry, or whether, you feel like you can't afford to do a lights on program or your staff is not yet in that space. Just really think critically about what you have that's working in your school so far and how do you build off of it. So when I was talking to Dennis about how we're planning for next year, I've been really, really intentional about not taking a deficit-based approach, right? I think it's really easy for people to zero in on this whole learning loss concept or, more of the achievement gap. And I've been really clear and explicit with parents and staff and just the community that this is an opportunity to think about all of the life skills that we've gained, right? We have pre-K students in my instance that are now Zoom experts and know how to navigate Google and all of these virtual learning platforms that we probably wouldn't be giving them email accounts until second or third grade. Now my 4-year-olds have it in the building. So my charge to my school community when we're thinking about what September looks like, it's how do we build on the strengths that we've uncovered about ourselves? I think we always talk about the limitations and the constraints that we have, but this is an opportunity for us to really play to our strengths and play to the student strengths? What do you have in your school community, in your school, that can support the community?
So there's a couple of things that I kind of want to resonate and then get to Dennis's question. Dennis, I heard you say over and over, we can. And I'm going to take that a step further and say we must. Okay, because can kind of still leaves a little wiggle room. Must means it got to get done. The answer, as you always say, is right here in the room. And so in preparing for this school year, it's calling on us to reflect, regroup, reacclimate, rededicate, but more importantly, to reimagine. We are not going back to a space and a place that we even know, right? We have to, at this point, really look at the things that we thought we knew and really begin reimagining the school business. As principals in communities, if you look back at culturally at Africa and places like that, we really are the village head. And as the village head, it then becomes our job to manage the politics, the economics, the culture of that village, and the village being the communities that we sit at the helm of and serve, because our schools then become kind of the village center, right? And so what are we doing to ensure that as the village center and as the village chiefs and the village heads, that we're doing everything that we can do to ensure that our parents, not the ones who send our children to us, but our future parents, those children that come to see us, that they end up in a better space and place, not just cognitively and academically, but socially and emotionally and spiritually, so that when we get their children, because inevitably, if you do this job long enough, you'll get their children too, that you then have a parent body that's more prepared because you saw the connections and you saw yourself at the center of a nexus of opportunities. And like Dr. Farrington said, at the center of an ecosystem.
I tell anybody, man, my first year, I got a vote of no confidence as a principal. I was in the news so much, I thought I was running for mayor. I was like, God, Lee, what? They got me on channel 2, 4, 5, 6. They got me on channels I didn't even know existed. But because I kept the vision and I kept myself centered on what's important, which were the children that looked like me, because I know if those children, especially young Black males, if they didn't graduate from high school, if I didn't push and stay firm, they end up like a statistic, which is prison, slavery, or dead. So continue the good fight of faith, continue the work that you do, because the work you're doing is saving the community. And when you talk about reopening the school, I put a flyer and all this information down, but there's an opportunity to, if you're in middle school, you got 3 grades that you don't know nothing about. If you're high school, you got 4 grades essentially in your school that don't know anything about you. So you have an opportunity to completely change the paradigm of that school if it was a narrative that you didn't agree with. You could walk into the school next year and tell the kids that walk in there and say, we are the best school in our city, in our town, in our state. And they don't have anything else to believe but what you tell them, because they have no frame of reference except what you provide for them. So there is an amazing opportunity. And I really hope educators look at it from an asset perspective and an opportunity, and get away from this whole notion. Listen to folks say, we're so tired. No, we're not tired. We're fired up. We're not burnt out. You got to be on fire to be burnt out. So we're ready to go.
I know, as a person who deals with your students and your community in a very holistic manner, I think much of what was said today, these are things that I've witnessed at your school with you as the leader of your building. And if you can kind of maybe sum us up about some of the takeaways, some of the things that we can do, to actually prepare ourselves, for this upcoming fall.
But the beauty is that we have this forum in this space, and in order to have these ongoing conversations. But I'm big on getting together, making sure that we are all developing ourselves and then coming up with a plan. So the way that, and Anisha is very good at reaching out and saying, okay, let's talk, let's collaborate, let's do this, because she has so much in her head and always has like a cheat sheet to go along with it. But at the same time, in creating the space so that she too can also, receive information from our colleagues. So part of what I have put in the chat before, I think it's important that as we also have a lot of teaching and learning takeovers, that we also have conversations about where do we begin, where do we start, with regards to how are we truly understanding that we too are like the politicians in the community. How have we begun building ourselves as well-trusted individuals with the very lives that everybody cares about, and that's the little people, whether they're 3 or 93, because Unc said it great, the school is that place. In any time in history, in any particular country, the place that was the haven for where all life was centered outside of the mother's womb was the school.